So my name's Brittany Evans.
There you go.
I'm 35. I'm from Wetumpka. I grew up in Wetumpka. Went to Wetumpka. I guess I could say I should have graduated 08, but I didn't. I got pregnant at 16, and I was pretty much forced to get married and move out all in the same day. I showed up to school and they told me that I couldn't be there because I was withdrawn. So no more school for me. My parents went and withdrew me, I guess because they didn't want me to be an embarrassment for them. They didn't want anybody to see me 16 and pregnant. Let's see. So I had my first one, which was Chase, at 17. Their dad wound up getting a job at the shipyard in Mobile. And when Chase was 2 weeks old, we moved to Mobile. And the only people I had down there was his mom and dad, which was also not a good person. He had actually he was in prison and was out on work release when I met their dad and was working at the shipyard. So when they released him, he continued to work at the shipyard, and that's how their dad got the job down there, making decent money for a 19-year-old. And I don't even think I talked to my mom until Chase was about 4 or 5 months old. So I was down there for a year and a half. Their dad was not a wonderful person. He lied and manipulated, and he was cheating, lying, driving all the way up here, using my car to see another girl. And anyways, he was just not a good person. So he wound up almost getting me into some really bad situations. At one point, this was after I'd had Kaylee, so I had Kaylee 15 months after Chase. And I was at home with them, and he pulls up, runs inside, and is like, "Where's your keys? Where's your keys?" And I was like, "They're right there on the counter. Why? What's wrong?" "If the police show up, don't answer the door." And left. And the police wound up showing up, and I had no idea what to do, what was going on, or anything like that. All I knew is they were looking for him. I didn't know what he had done. So things like that kept happening, and eventually I was like, I'm done with this situation. You're not supposed to bring me down with whatever you got going on. Wound up moving back up here, moved in with my grandparents because those were the only people I had at the time. And tried to start getting divorced. That took about 3 years. Because he wound up facing 6 felonies at the time that I filed for divorce. And his mother kept trying to, he wound up filing 2 extensions and going and putting himself in rehab, and got 2 60-day extensions. And he would go to rehab for 3, 4, 5 days and then leave. But come to find out, he was making and manufacturing meth, and he was robbing and stealing and all kinds of bad things. So finally got divorced from him. And I met my husband now, Chris, in the middle of all that, trying to get divorced and nonsense. So my mom met I call him my donor, when she was 18, 18, had me at 19, and he also wasn't a very outstanding individual, but he wound up signing over his rights to me when I was 9. My stepdad, who wound up adopting me, he started dating my mom when I was 2.5, 3. So he adopted me when I was 9, and we didn't have a very good relationship, especially once I hit my teenage years. And him and my mom wound up having my sister when I was, let's see, how old would I have been? I'm 10 years older than her, so I was 15, 13, wait, I can't do math right now.
It's okay. You don't have to do math. And it got to be specific.
But anyway, I'm 10 and 11 years older than my sister, and I have twin brothers. So it was like once I hit teenage years and they kind of came along, we did. He was very narcissistic. He was very demeaning. He was very know-it-all, alpha in your face. There were several times that, for example, one day I had stayed home sick, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom at the time. And I don't even remember what I did, what I said, but I think I was about probably 14, somewhere around in there. And she had told him that I'd gotten smart with her or something that day. And instead of asking what happened, what went on, what was said, he just came home and just like smacked the crap out of me. So I never really had a voice or an opinion when it came to anything. Like I was just supposed to be a robot and yes sir, yes sir, yes sir, yes sir, no matter if it was wrong or right. I was supposed to just say yes sir and move on. And but there were several times that would happen. He would, I don't even remember what was going on, but he liked to like grab you up by your arm and grab me up by my arm and get in my face quite frequently. And I don't remember what had happened, but this is also when we lived on my grandparents' property, so they were just not even a football field away, and they also had a really big part in raising me. But he had grabbed me up and got in my face, and we had a recliner by the door, and he had me by both of my arms and like slung me down in the chair, and he wore one of those metal watches with the little clasp, and that wound up coming undone, and like he sliced my whole finger open, and yeah, but I wound up running down to my grandma's and my papa's house, and he went up there and he was like, don't you ever put your hands on her again or anything like that. So I think a lot of my issues stemmed from childhood trauma, just basically because he was just so in your face, and you can't have no feelings, no emotions, no opinions on anything. So I wound up being very angry. I was a very angry teenager, very. I would get mad and hit things like my wall. which ultimately wound me up with a boxer's fracture at one point in time when I was about 15, 16. But no, I was angry. I would destroy my whole room. Flip my mattress, my dresser. It was bad. It was bad. And I think I just struggled. I didn't really have anybody but my grandparents. And obviously they couldn't do a whole lot, but I don't know, I think that's where a lot of it stemmed from. And I think I struggled with abandonment issues too from my biological father. And then I had a stepdad that had legal custody of me that was not nice or nurturing or caring or any of those things. So I think that made me just angry. I was angry. I was very depressed. I wound up being a cutter later on. Can't really explain that other than, I guess the only way I could explain it would be, I guess you want to feel something, maybe. I don't know. I can't explain it. But I didn't do that too terribly long. But for instance, he wound up, because when I would cut somewhere where I could hide it for the most part, so they wouldn't notice. But he wound up seeing marks on my arm one time and proceeded to beat my butt because I was cutting myself. So they were very strict. I had to, I couldn't hardly go anywhere. I was pretty much an in-home babysitter. So when I could leave, I would leave for the whole weekend. As long as I could get away with, I was gone. And they had to know, which I see now as a parent of teenagers, I understand, but, they want to know who I was around, where I was going to be, how long I was going to be there, and all that. And when I hit high school, I pretty much turned wild. And I lied and manipulated my way, and however I could get my way is how I got it. That's when I think I started really drinking. And I think that was my way of dealing with all of the things that I was dealing with. And it was pretty much every weekend thing when I was a teenager. And if I wasn't drinking, then I was definitely driving somebody. But yeah, I had friends with parents that were the cool parents, and I could go over there and be like, all right, call mom and tell mom I'm here, and then we would leave and go do things I had absolutely no business doing. So, and then I think it was almost self-medicated with alcohol. And it just wound up turning into a very unhealthy relationship with alcohol. I know at one point, I was probably 22, 23. That was when it was real bad. I would drink probably a 6-pack a night, just sitting outside on my porch. That's when I smoked cigarettes too. So I would just sit out there on my porch and drink my beer and smoke my pack of cigarettes. And I also watched my mom struggle with alcoholism. There would be sometimes that she would drink 2 bottles of wine a night. And then the next morning she would be awful, like just really bad mood, very short-tempered, very annoyed and aggravated. And so, I mean, I saw what it did to her, but I guess I just didn't realize that it pretty much did the same thing to me. But I don't think I realized that until probably about 5-6 years ago. And then it almost started to give me bad anxiety the next day. And I got to a point to where I could drink 2 beers or I could drink 7 or 8 and I would still feel the exact same way the next morning. So it was almost like it didn't matter how much I drank. It was just the fact that I drank. And I didn't drink liquor or anything hard like that. I just took to like seltzers or beer or something light, because when I did drink, I drank. You know, I mean, I could throw them back with the best of the guys, for sure. And that's nothing I'm proud of, but it was extremely unhealthy. And I probably started feeling convicted of it before I even realized I was being convicted. It wound up being a heaviness on me, not while I was doing it, but the next day for sure. Because I started realizing that, like, I would sit out in my garage and I would drink a few, and, you know, one of the kids would come out there and be like, hey, can we blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, nope, can't go nowhere because I've been drinking. So then that started setting in of, now this is really hitting me that it is messing and hindering my time with my kids. Like I'm telling my kids I can't go do things, or I don't feel like doing things because I would rather sit here and drink. And that started, like I said, probably about 5-6 years ago, to be honest. And I just don't think I wanted to accept it at the time. Because I feel like a lot of people, when they think somebody's an alcoholic, they think that, you know, they gotta wake up in the morning and put a shot of Bailey's in their coffee to stop their shakes, and, you know, they walk around with shooters in their car, so on a break they can go, you know what I mean? Like, when they think alcohol is, like, that's what I feel like they think. But, like, you know, Chris had asked me, well, do you think you're an alcoholic? And I said, well, if you ask me, I would say yes. But I had even had friends of mine say, well, you didn't even have a problem, so why are you, you know, flaunting the fact that you're not drinking anymore? And I would be like, so because I didn't wake up and drink all day long every day means I didn't have a problem with it? Because I did. I had a very unhealthy relationship with alcohol, for sure. It definitely controlled me more than I realized it controlled me. Because I associated pretty much everything with alcohol. I mean, from going and watching football, to going to the lake, to going to the pool, to having people over at my house. I mean, pretty much any type of social event, and it didn't even have to be social, it involved alcohol for me. And I think it really started hitting me hard whenever Chase turned 16. And then now I'm worrying about him and being the role model I should be for him, because that's not what I would want my kid, you know, going out doing and then driving around. Or even him make the comment, well, I'm 16, I can be your DD now. Yeah, so that hit me pretty hard. Which, like I said, I had been feeling the heaviness of it for a while. And then I wound up, I think I wound up praying over it for about 2 years. And I prayed almost every single day for him to just help take it away, take the temptation away, take, anything associated with it, take it away. And then that's when I started losing people. I actually quit talking to one friend and lost a whole entire friend group. And I think that was him isolating me, which I knew I needed, but I didn't want it. I didn't think I was ready, but I think that was him isolating me for sure. And none of them reached out. Not a single one of them. And I just finally accepted, like, hey, this is my time to be isolated, and this is my time to change and do what I need to do. Mainly to be a role model for my teenagers, And so let's see, 2 years ago, so I decided I was going to read a chapter of my Bible. I was going to read the whole entire Bible. I was going to read a chapter a day, no matter what. Like, I could obviously read more, but chapter a day. I made a little spot. I got a big walk-in closet, so I made a little spot in my closet and had all my little Bible books and pens and all that, and I would sit in there, and I most of the time wound up reading more than one chapter. But I started in New Testament and read through the whole New Testament, and then once I finished it took me almost a year. I went and started in the Old Testament, and I think that's really when things started to change, because that was at the beginning, at the same time of where he was isolating me, and I was losing everybody that I thought was in my corner and wasn't in my corner. And then I pretty much just started weaning myself and telling myself, okay, we're going to quit, but you can only drink on Friday. Like, that's it, only Friday. Because, I would drink. I didn't drink because I was sad. I didn't drink because I was happy. I didn't drink because I had a bad day or a good day, or I didn't have to have a reason to drink. Like, I didn't drink just because I was mad or upset or had a bad day. Like, I didn't have to have a reason. So sometimes I would drink several times a week. And I never drank to get drunk. I did not like being drunk. So I never got belligerent or sloppy or, anything like that. Most of the time, my kids could probably not even tell you if I had been drinking or not. But I just said, all right, only 5 days. And I did only 5 days for probably 2 months. And then I was like, all right, that's it, we're done. No more. No more. Because I would drink on, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then I'd get up and come in here on Sunday morning and be like, yeah, this don't feel good. This ain't right. This don't sit well with me, not one bit. So that's why I was like, all right, Fridays, we're not going to drink the day before church, because we're not going to go into church like that. So yeah, it's definitely a whole process of quitting, but I know for sure that the whole isolation period was very eye-opening for me. And then especially once you get sober and you're sober-minded and you can look back and go, that was him taking me completely out of everything, out of all of my normal, and putting me by myself. Because I didn't have nobody. The only person I talked to was my sister, because she's basically my best friend. And so just isolation, and it was hard, but I don't think it was as hard for me as it is for some people, because I knew I needed that. Like, I knew I couldn't go hang out at the lake, for the first couple months or whatever it was that I decided that was it, I was done. Social events, I knew I kind of needed to keep them at a minimum, but I didn't want to just completely be a hermit either and not leave my house. But it was hard. It's hard being isolated and losing, a whole group of people that you think are your friend and there for you, and no matter what, and then you decide to change and you fall off, and then not one of them reaches out and checks on you, or, hey, are you okay? What's going on? Nothing. But now he has put two wonderful people, two beautiful humans in my life that are just, they're amazing. I couldn't say anything. I don't know. I don't even know how to explain it. Friends, my two friends I have now are nothing like the friends I had then. And I prayed, I said, remove anybody that is not for me, and all that. And he did. But then he gave me two beautiful people that are genuine, that check on me and uplift me, and if I have any type of spiritual question, that's who I call, and we'll FaceTime and we'll break it down, and she'll let me look up the Greek word for that, let me look up the Hebrew, and I'm like, that's, that the whole process now is like, now I know exactly what he was doing. I think now, going through this journey, I know that the world has normalized alcohol. Like, it is, I get looked at like I have three eyes, which I'm sure, y'all probably have too, when I say, no, I don't drink. And they're like, what? Do you have a problem? So it's just so normal to socially drink too. And it's everywhere if you sit back and think about it. Like, all sporting events, baseball, football, weddings, almost any event that's not Christian based, you can pretty much guarantee there'll be alcohol there. And what I did was, like I said, I put restrictions on myself first, because I like to give myself a goal that I know I'm capable of achieving. So that's why I did the, restriction on just Fridays. And then, give myself 2-3 months of just that, and then that's it, we're done. I personally found their Topo Chico sparkling waters, flavored waters. They have the most flavor to them. So that's what I did, and I kept those in my refrigerator. So anytime that I would go, oh, I need a beer, or I want a beer, I'd go, no, you don't. We're going to drink one of these waters. And then if you still want one after, then you can have one. But I never would want a beer after that. I did acquire several hobbies in this process. Plants. I got a lot of house plants. I took up coloring with alcohol markers. Yes. Weird. But it's very soothing, especially for people with ADD and ADHD. So I just tried to do things to occupy my time. I would take my big tumbler and I would do strawberry lemonade and pineapple juice and Sprite, and that's what I took with me if I went to a birthday party or football game party, or that's what I always made sure I had something to drink in my hand. But I didn't think in a million years I would ever be sitting here in a church giving any type of testimony ever. But he can definitely completely change your life around if you just, surrender and let him have it. And you just better be ready, because especially once the Holy Spirit gets a hold of you, because I was not a crier. I was hard. You wasn't going to see me cry. But now it don't take much at all.